Hello everyone, my name is Lisa Sanders. I'm from the Northern Ohio Volleyball Officials Association. I will be giving the presentation for understanding illegal alignment. In my presentation, we will discuss what is an illegal alignment, why do we care about illegal alignments, what are some basic positionings, what does the NFHS rulebook have to say about illegal alignments? How do we recognize and determine them? When do we call it? When do we warn? What are some techniques and tools for player tracking? What works? What doesn't work? What pros? What cons of the lineup cards exist? And how do you judge it? And how do you understand player positioning? The premise as it relates to alignment is that all players must be in the proper positions relative to each other at the contact of the serve. Well, what does that mean to us? Why do we care? Well, volleyball has always been a rotational concept, and coaches want players in a variety of positions for both defensive and offensive purposes, as well as for strengths and weaknesses of the players, for different servers, front row, back row players, and different serve receivers. They want to be able to hide the weaknesses and develop the primary passers. Rule 6.4.1, player positions, says that there's 3 front row players and 3 back row players. So that's the basic positioning. We have a left front, a center front, and a right front. For the back row, we have a left back, a center back, and a right back. Rule 6.41 states the position of players in order of the serve shall be right back, right front, center front, left back, and center back. This is the basic positioning diagram. This shows all players in the proper positions relative to each other at the time of serve. As we start looking at basic positioning in volleyball, let's remember some of the following. The right back position is considered number 1. The left front position is considered position 2. The center front is considered position 3. The left front is considered position 4. The left back is considered position 5. And the center back is considered position 6. So where does the libero come into play? Typically, the libero is the back row player who is a defensive specialist. Only one libero may be designated per set. This is unlike other rule sets. So be sure you know that only one libero may be designated. The libero, when used per the rule 6.42, shall be designated on the team lineup sheet prior to each set. It may be a team captain. They may be used as an exceptional sub for an injured player if no other legal sub is available. They shall not replace a disqualified teammate, and they shall be allowed to serve in one position in the serving order. 6.4.3 rule says, at the moment of serve, all players except the server shall be within the team's playing court and may be in contact with the boundary lines or center line, but may not have any part of the body touching the floor outside those lines. They shall also be in correct service order. As we will see in the next slide, the right back player is not considered because they are the server, and all alignments should be judged by a foot position only. In this slide, if you look at the left back, they have their foot over the line, so a part of their body is over line, which is not permitted. If you look at the left front, their foot is on the sideline and is okay. If you look at the center front, they have a part of their foot over the center line and therefore would be considered an illegal alignment. Right front has their foot on the center line, which would be okay. You will see that the right back is always considered the server and may be along the boundary line or the end line. 6.4.3 rule goes on to say that each right side player shall have at least part of one foot touching the floor closer to the right sideline than both feet of the center player in the corresponding row, except the server, right back, and the center back of the serving team. And we'll see this in an example in the next couple of slides. Each left side player shall have at least part of one foot touching the floor closer to the left sideline than both feet of the center player in the corresponding row. In addition, Rule 6.43 talks about the front row players shall have at least part of one foot touching the floor closest to the center line than both feet of the corresponding back row player. After the ball is contacted, all players may move from their respective positions. Part of illegal alignment is ensuring that these players do not move too early. Typically, an R1 judges the serving team and the R2 judges the receiving team. So let's go back to our basic positioning as it relates to Rule 6.43. It said that each right side player, so our right front and our right back, must be closer to the right sideline than both feet of the center player in the corresponding row. So the center player of the right front corresponding would be center front, and the corresponding center player to the right back would be center back. In addition, it says the left side players, so the left front and left back, must be closer to the left sideline than both feet of the center player in the corresponding row. So the left front must be closer to the left sideline than the center front, and the left back must be closer to the left boundary than the center back. This table will help you in identifying the adjacent players and their common positions and who they must be properly aligned with. The right back must be properly aligned with the right front and the center back. The right front must be properly aligned with the center front and the right back. The center front then must be properly aligned with the center back, and the front row players to the left of him, left front, or to the right of them, right front. The left front must be properly aligned with the left back and center front. And then the center back must be properly aligned with center front, left back, and right back. And you can follow by looking at the diagram. So now that we know where the players should be out on the court, let's identify and determine if an alignment is appropriate. In this photograph, you will see that the center front is closer to the center line than the center back, and they would be okay. If you look at the left front and the left back, you will see that the left back's foot is in front of the left front and therefore this would be an illegal alignment. In this photograph, you will see that the left front is closer to the left sideline, and the center front is to the right of the left front with a foot behind the left front, which means they are not overlapping and they are okay. In the right back position with the center back, the right back, as we stated earlier in the rules, should be closer to the right side boundary line, and in this case, the center back is actually closer to the right sideline and therefore would be an illegal alignment. Let's now look at a little more complicated alignment. The center front and the center back. They are okay as long as one foot of the center front is in front of the center back, which is okay. Doesn't matter that they're in front of the attack line. Where it gets complicated is when you have the left back, the center back, and the right back, all corresponding players in the same row. You want to ensure that the left back is closer to the left line, sideline, the center back is in the middle, and the right back has a foot that's closer to the right boundary. So look at the foot position of the left back, the center back, and the right back where their positioning is at. Again, as we discussed earlier, the right back position is usually the server's position, and we do not consider that when we're judging an alignment. Now that we understand what basic positioning is with the front row players and the back row players, and we have identified who the adjacent players are, we can now look at how do we recognize the illegal alignments and what can we do about them. In this case, as an R2, do not patrol the sidelines to determine if the players are overlapping illegally. Just because a player is leaning forward, we want to make sure that we judge their foot position, not the lean of their body. Use your normal position as an R2. Even is technically illegal, but it is never called. So players that may be even in nature with their foot is never called. You can warn where necessary or needed, and then you can call thereafter. Towards the beginning of the season, I can tell you that I just warned them, and by the middle to end of season, they should know where they're at, and I would make a considerable effort and a proactive effort to either warn them and then call them. One of the big questions to consider is this player really gaining an advantage by being illegal aligned? And you can answer that by looking at the feet position. Any player who is not in their proper position when the ball is contacted for the serve is at a risk for a fault. Just remember that these formations are typically created to optimize the positions of the setter and or the primary passers. Remember, the coaches are moving players around. Sometimes the players don't know where they're supposed to be, and you can offer assistance. Develop a strategy for assessing all the players, left to right and front to back, knowing who your front row is and knowing who your back row is. This will also help you identify illegal back row attacks and illegal blocks. Remember, most overlaps occur or illegal alignment occur because there's formations that the coaches are trying to optimize the positions of their setter and their primary passers according to the server from the serving team. So they want to enhance their team passing. They want to facilitate the setter and the hitter transitions, getting the hitter in a position to hit and attack quicker, and they want to disguise who is attacking and the modes of attack. So if you understand and know the proper player's positioning, it will assist you greatly as an R2 in identifying the illegal alignments. Then you can develop your own strategy for assessing the players' positions. Now let's talk about some techniques for NFHS per the rulebook and tools for tracking players. The technique for calling an illegal alignment or improper serve or inaccurate lineup is a circular motion of the entire hand extended down from your arm at waist level. You can practice it just by standing there or sitting there. You can practice your circular motion. The technique for the R1 is they must wait for the R2 to blow the whistle. The R2 will give the circular motion. The R1 will say, yes, I agree with you, R2. They only award the point, and there's no need to repeat the R2 signal. This is a lot like a net call where the R2 calls the net and the R1 agrees and awards the point only. The R2, just remember, you may need to, if you call an illegal alignment or an improper serve, you may need to return the players in a proper position. So you may want to use your scorebook to ask them to get them in the proper position. You should refrain as an R2 from being over courteous of the current server or of a lineup check. Pre-match, pre-match, pre-match. You should do this all the time with every scorer. You should encourage them to verify each team's lineup at the start of each set while you are checking the teams on the respective court. This, as I tell everyone, is a double check standard. You're checking, you may have written it down wrong on your lineup card and you can correct it right away. And or if the scorekeeper has written the lineup down wrong, they can correct it right away before the match starts, and then there's no problems or issues. You should ask your scorer to immediately notify you upon contact of the serve by an illegal server. That is when you will whistle your improper server. Communication is key in all of the above. If you need to give the team a lineup check, ask for assistance from your scorers if you need it. Use your lineup card and pencil, but make sure it doesn't interfere with your signals nor disrupt the flow of the match. If you do some preventative officiating as an R2, meaning a player standing slightly out of bounds or a close call with a player leaving early if you warn, that will help them realize that you're watching them and you need them to get in a proper position. Do not make those gotcha calls. My best advice is to watch warm-ups, identify who the setters are, look at your lineup prior to the match, know who the middle hitters are and who the outside hitters are, who the libero could potentially come in for. You could identify if a team is running a 4-2 offense where there's two setters who play the front row, or whether they're running a 5-1 where the setter plays every position. Or you could identify whether they're playing a 6-2 where the setters are coming from the back row, or if they're running a setter in a triangle position in a 6-3. If you identify that early through your lineups and through warm-ups, this will help you track the players and hopefully catch that illegal alignment. Make sure you know the libero replacements. Did the libero technically replace a back row player? What position is the libero in? Are they coming to the front row? Could there be an improper position where they've come to the front row? Just remember, the libero is still governed by the same illegal alignment rules. He or she cannot go where he or she wants in the back row until after the serve. Again, if you identify who's the adjacent players, you could catch a potential back row block or a back row attack. And if you track no one else on the court, a good technique to remember is track where the setter is for each team's. Most often, illegal alignments are involving directly or indirectly the setter. And the majority of back row blocks are by back row setters, and the majority of back row attacks, especially at the lower levels, will be by back row setters as well. If you understand the type of offense each team is running, this will help you in identifying illegal alignments. Again, make sure you know if they're running a 4-2 and where the setters are coming from. Identify if it's a 6-2, if the setters are coming out of the back row. Identify if it's a 5-1. The setter is always the same player and plays all the positions. And if they run a 6-3, you'll understand that it's a triangle position, and that will help you in identifying illegal alignments. A lineup card will also help you in understanding and identifying illegal alignments and player positioning. Remember, only National Federation high school rules use a lineup card. This is just one example of a lineup card used for a starting lineup in a match. Here is another example of a lineup card used during a match as well. Whatever lineup card works best for you should help you and not hinder you. As we all know, there's pros and cons of that lineup card. The pros could be it's a good way to quickly determine positions. There's also a good backup for the scorer with substitutions and timeouts. But here's some cons. Just remember they take a while to write down your subs. You're also duplicating scorer's work who's already got the subs and timeouts in, and sometimes they can become a crutch for tracking. Remember, sometimes R2s are staring at their lineup card and you can miss calls and or delay the play, which is something we do not want to happen throughout the match. As we look at right back alignment, just remember that the right back must be aligned with the right front player and the center back as shown by the blue arrows. So that would be the setter's position as they start in the right back position and ensuring that they are properly aligned with the right front and the center back. Let's start by looking at a right back setter. Let's look at the back row in yellow. The left back, center back, and right back are all back row players as identified in the yellow box. Our front row in the purple box is our left front, center front, and right front player. In this basic positioning, the right back setter is positioned behind the right front player, and the potential for overlap is front to back only, right front to right back. You want to ensure that the center front player does not have a left to right alignment issue with the left front and right front, and same with the center back, ensuring there's no potential for left to right alignment issue with the left back and right back player. Here is another potential setup for the right back setter, where the right back setter is closer to the right boundary line, and in doing so, all three front row players, left front, center front, and right front, are stacked to the left side of the court, closer to the left boundary, and there are two potential side to center alignment issues. And then with the right back, there could be a front to back alignment issue. The right back clearly must stay behind the right front, and the right front must be closer to the right sideline than the center front. The left front then must be closer to the left side boundary line so as not to cause an alignment issue with the stack on the left side. Here is another potential setup for the right back setter. You will notice that the right back setter has pushed the right front player closest to the net, and nearer the right side boundary, causing a potential for a front to back alignment issue. Further in this diagram, you will see that the center front has pulled back in front of the center back player to become a primary passer, and they could potentially have a front to back alignment issue with the center front player and the center back player. When the setter then rotates to the center back after serving, the center back then has a potential for 3 players to overlap: the center front, the left back, and the right back. The center back player must ensure that they are in a line with all 3 of those players, versus just one when they're in the right front. In this position, we will look at the center back setter. The center back setter is pushing forward the center front player. The center front player, remember, must be closer to the center line than the center back player. So there's a potential front to back issue with the center front player. Then as we look at the right back and the right front, there is another potential where the right front player must ensure that they are not overlapping the right back player, so a front to back issue. But then there's also the center back and the right back. The right back player must be closer to the right boundary sideline than the center back player. So always ensuring that the center back player is in between the left back player and the right back player, and ensuring that the center back player is behind the center front. So potential right to center alignment issue and a potential front to back issue with the center front player. In this diagram, it gets a little more complicated. The center back player is in between the left back and right back, and in this positioning, there could be a potential front to back alignment issue with the center front player. However, the center back becomes a major passer in this scenario and in this positioning. The center back is already in between the left back and the right back in this position, so they are okay side to side, but the center back, obviously left to center, must ensure that the center front player is to the left of them, which they are, and the left front player is closer to the left sideline, but is not overlapping front to back with the left back. This is a much more complicated system, and most of the time you don't see this run at the high school level, but it's something that you should be familiar with, that they may try to ensure that the center back setter may be a good passer, and in this case may pass the ball with the center front player, and the right front player being closer to the right sideline and closest to the net, only covering for the short services. In this case, the setter has now moved to the left back position and has rotated and is pushed the left front player towards the left side boundary closest to the net. She is standing towards the middle of the court and must be aware that she must be to the left of this center back position, so there's no front to back alignment issue with the left back player and the center back player. And then the left front player must ensure that they are closer to the left side boundary than the center front player, so there's no front to back issue there. And then the left back player and the center back player must ensure that they do not have a right to center alignment issue. Our primary passers are the center front, center back, and right back. That's why it's important to know who your 3 front row players are and who your 3 back row players are. Let's look at another position for the left back setter. In this positioning, we've pushed the left front up to the left corner. The left back setter is properly behind the left front player, and the center front player then is up in the left corner with the left front and the left back, and the center back is now in a major passing role in the back court center back. So there's a potential left to center alignment issue with the center front and the center back and the left back and the left front. However, in this positioning, clearly you can see the left back is behind the left front, and the left to center issue would be with the center back and the left back, and the left back is clearly closer to the left boundary. Then we have the right back and the right front with a potential front to back alignment issue, the same as we see from the left front and the left back positioning. In the next positioning, the setter has now moved to the front row, and the setter will be in the left front position. This is clearly something we see quite frequently in the high school level, where the left front, center front, and right front are all stacked in the front left corner, and your left back, center back, and right back players are positioned to receive the serve. There are 2 potential side to center alignment issues, and that would be the center front and the right front, ensuring that the right front is obviously closer to the right side boundary, which in this case they are. The center front remains in between the left front and the right front, and the left front player remains closest to the left side boundary line. This is something you see quite often in the high school level. We are rotating again, and the setter has now moved to the center front position. In this center front position where the setter is located, there is a potential front to back alignment issue with the left back and the left front. The left front clearly must be in front of the left back player in order to alleviate any alignment issue here. As you can see, the left back, left front, center back, and right back are all players in the main passing scheme of the center front setter. The right front player takes any short serves, and the setter will remain in the center front position for any passed ball by the left back, left front, center back, and right back primary passers in this positioning. In this positioning, the setter has now rotated to the right front position, and there's a front to back alignment issue with the left back and the left front along with the center back and the center front. So ensuring that there's no front to back, that the back row players remain behind the front row players. And then there may be a potential right to center alignment issue with the right front and the center front, ensuring that the right front player is closer to the right boundary line than the center front. And as you can see, the four primary passers will be the left back, left front, center back, center front, with the right back player being hidden in this serve receive. As we look at this last slide for positioning of the right front setter, there is a potential right to center alignment issue with the center front and the right front. Remember, the setter has gone to the right front position and they are being hidden by the center front player who will become a passer in this position. The right front player must be closer to the right side boundary than the center front player, as shown in this diagram. All the other players are in correct alignment with their adjacent player. Let's recap what we've already learned. Remember, the right back must be aligned with right front and center back. Right front must be aligned with center front and right back. Center front must be aligned with center back, left front, and right front. The left front must be aligned with left back and center front. Center back must be aligned with center front, left back, and right back. Hopefully knowing all of that will help you in looking for illegal alignments. Now let's have some fun. You make the call in the next diagrams. The call you should make is legal or illegal. If you call illegal, you should know the reasoning why. Take a look at the team on the right. Identify the positions 1 through 6 and identify whether this is legal or illegal. If it is illegal, answer why it's illegal. Again, let's look at the team on the right and identify whether this is legal or illegal. Look at the team on the right with the player positionings. Identify if this is legal or illegal. The team on the right, you make the call, legal or illegal. I hope as we go through these slides, this is helping you understand illegal alignments. You make the call on this one, illegal or legal. You make the call with the team on the right. Here is our last slide for you make the call, illegal or legal. In summary, We should all know the rules and use the verbiage of the rules to assist us. After this presentation, you should be able to identify adjacent players and making sure their correct position at service contact. We should be able to recognize legal and illegal positioning out on the court. We should be able to find a tracking strategy that works comfortably for all of us. Inexperienced officials should seek out veteran officials for assistance. Don't dwell on your lineup card. Use your scoring staff during timeouts and subs if necessary. Communicate. Pre-match with your R1 if necessary and your scoring staff. Ask your scoring staff if they already have a system of communicating to you. Ask your scorer what indication they will give you when they're prepared or ready to move on. Ask for assistance if necessary, and ask them to notify you immediately upon contact of the serve by an illegal server. With experience, you will be able to take a quick glance at the service order of the receiving team prior to each contact of the serve and recognize illegal alignments. Recognize those sub-patterns and the Libero replacements. And finally, make sure you practice, practice, practice. That will help you in everything you do. Good luck and have a great season.